A good sidekick is always a good con artist, by David Crabtree. Madame Silvercrow, or Jenny to her very few friends, was a medium psychic, seer, and above all, a fraud. That's nothing special in and of itself. There are plenty of charlatans out there who are keen to make some quick cash off the hopes of the gullible. Jenny, though, she was damn good at what she did. There are so many skills and tricks required to perform a convincing seance that I won't list them all here. Suffice to say that Madame Silvercrow was a natural at everything from cold reading to sleight of hand. Every time she held a group seance, there would be at least one ardent skeptic in the room, and that skeptic would, without fail, end up convinced of her power. I know that for a fact, because that skeptic was always me. Yeah. Having a good stooge amongst your clients is an invaluable resource to any medium. Not to brag or anything, but I was good at it too. Between us, we came up with a whole language made up of nearly imperceptible gestures and eye movements. I'll run you through some of what we did when I tell you about our last seance. Our last seance. The one that fucked everything up for good. It wasn't an unusual group by any means. Jenny and I had sized up and sussed out everybody in it before we'd even sat around the table. That's a trick, you see. You can tell a lot about a person by the way they dress, move and speak. Anybody older than their mid-twenties almost certainly has at least one dead relative. Anybody wearing an expensive suit with cheap shoes probably wants to hear about the money that's sure to come their way. In that particular group was the classic middle-aged married couple. Husband ate too much, and judging by how the incense in the cramped little room made him splutter, smoked too much as well. Wife was shy, mousy, and probably the one who dragged the husband along in the first place. He could be an issue if he didn't feel like he was getting his money's worth. Let's call them Barry and Linda. Next was a skinny, nerdy looking guy in his early 30s. Thin hair, thick glasses, ironic t-shirt. Almost certainly interested in finding out how his sex life will be in the future. Jenny would have no problem with him. She took one look at the guy and furtively undid an extra button on her blouse. Let's call him Timothy. Finally, there was a sweet old lady in her late 70s, replete with a pink cardigan and a little handbag clutched to her chest. Her eyes were the biggest giveaway. Some mixture of sadness and hope that meant she was looking to contact someone dead. Most likely her husband, considering she'd come alone. Let's call her Marge. All in all, you really couldn't ask for a better group. No real ambiguity as to who they were and what they were about. None of them had the incredible punchable smirk unique to pop skeptics looking to foil a small-time hustler. It really should have been a clean, straightforward job. We sat around a table dominated by a large gothic Ouija board. Madame Silvercrow lit even more incense before taking a seat. She'd always felt it important to establish a properly smoky environment before a seance. She took a look at each of us in turn, her eyes unfocused and distant, as though she saw things invisible to the rest of us. "I sense resistance in the occult forces," she said in her well-versed ominous tone. "Somebody among you does not truly believe." Barry snorted but said nothing. That was my cue. "Yeah," I piped up, making sure to make my voice as smug as I could. It never hurts to have the token skeptic look like a colossal prick. "I don't think you're really psychic." Barry gave me an approving nod, while Linda and Marge tuttered. Timothy stared into his lap. "You wish for proof? Very well, you shall have it." Madame Silvercrow retrieved a standard tarot deck and shuffled out the cards. The usual routine here is that she will perform a fairly run-of-the-mill card trick. There are 78 cards in a tarot deck, a fact that Jenny would let the other clients know, so accurately guessing the correct card was sure to test her psychic ability. That was the usual routine, and we got most of the way through it. She shuffled, I picked out a card. That was the easiest way to dupe the gullible. "A bloody card trick? That doesn't prove nought." Barry's little outburst had sunk that plan right enough. I lay my selected card face down on the table, not even bothering to look at it. Time for the stooge to come to the rescue. "Yeah, He's right. A real psychic could read my mind. If I thought of a number between 1 and 1,000, he should be able to tell me what it is. Barry seemed satisfied with that one. I took out a diary and pen from my jacket and scribbled down a number. I let Barry have a look at it, but made sure Jenny couldn't see what I'd written. There, I've jotted it down so there's no cheating. Now then, read my mind. As you wish, Jenny said in her most mysterious voice as she closed her eyes. Focus on the number in your mind's eye. Yes, I see it clearly. 583. I gasped. Barry turned a little pale. The others, all of whom had apparently already been willing to believe in Madame Silvercrow's power, now had every reason to fork over their money. The skeptic routine accomplishes a few things. Firstly, it reinforces the reality of the seance for those who were already inclined to believe in it. Secondly, by knocking down an apparently supremely confident skeptic, other people are generally less keen to be the voice of dissent. Finally, it gives the medium and her stooge even more time to size up their clients. The seance was ready to begin. There's a whole ritualistic affair to begin a seance. Candles are lit, along with yet more incense, until the room's so heavy with smoke you can barely see your hand in front of your face. Madame Silvercrow would also perform a chant in Enochian, the language of angels, in order to contact the spirit world. In truth, the words were made up nonsense, but not many people are experts in Enochian, so she never had been called on it. It was definitely safer than Latin. Spirits! She cried as the preparatory ritual reached its climax. Are you here? Thump, thump, thump. It's probably fairly well known that the knocking and banging that sometimes accompanies a seance has more to do with ingenious hidden mechanisms, chords, and occasionally audio devices than it has to do with rampant poltergeists. Jenny's seances were no different in that regard. As the resident hardcore skeptic, though, I did my bit by looking suitably unnerved. Not outright terrified, that would be too obvious. Just scared enough to reinforce the spookiness for everybody else. I hear the voices of the spirit world, Jenny cried in a convincing demonstration of supernatural ecstasy. Are there any among you that have connection to the living gathered here? Yes, yes, I feel your presence. Is it a woman? Timothy asked, a little too eagerly. He caught the glances everybody else gave him, and went back to staring into his lap. No, this is a male spirit, one who was passed on only recently. It's my Graham, Marge whispered. He died a couple of months ago. That right there? That's gold dust to a medium. A client who outright gives you the name of their deceased loved one is a gift you can't just overlook. Yes, he still feels a connection to the name. Marge, he wants you to know something. What is it? I've missed him so much. Marge was already welling up with tears. That's a sign of a potential repeat customer. Maybe that sounds harsh. In a lot of ways it is, but all mediums are really doing is selling hope when you get down to it. That's not really such a bad thing, is it? He wants you to know that he's happy. Now that he doesn't have to lick your frigid gash, you sour-faced Bible-thumping bitch! The silence that followed was chillier than a graveyard in a blizzard. We all stared at Madame Silvercrow in abject shock, myself included. I'd seen her do some darker routines for the edgier crowd, sure. Never for a little old lady. Jenny clapped her hands to her mouth. That was the moment I knew for sure that this wasn't some new routine she hadn't run by me. Jenny was scared. Really scared. I'm so sorry, she whimpered. I promised that I would never... What? Tell the truth? Tell the miserable cow that her husband is rotting in hell for what he did. My husband was a kind and loving man, Marge screamed. There were tears running down her cheeks by that point. The rest of us were frozen in horror. Jenny arched her back and turned to fully face Marge. The movements were too jerky and stiff. They were accompanied by an audible crack and pop of joints. Your husband was a sadistic, murdering fuck. The maggots of the pit are slithering under his skin even as we speak. All the while he screams, I had orders, over and over, on and on, forever. Marge sat back, her face chalk white. The look she had was something I'd only seen once before, while on jury duty. It was the look the defendant had when a lawyer unveiled concrete evidence, tying him to a crime he'd insisted he'd never committed. At that moment, I realised just how superficial my reading of her had been. "Nothing to say," Jenny continued. "You know what he did to those prisoners. War doesn't excuse killing in cold blood. You know that. It was far easier to do nothing though, wasn't it? No amount of Sunday confessional will wipe your filthy soul clean." Her voice had completely lost its mysterious feminine quality, becoming harsh and rasping. The sound of it conjured an image of somebody trying to speak with a mouth and throat so dry they might as well be clogged with ash. "He was a good man," was all Marge could whisper. "You can tell him that yourself soon enough. He has plenty of maggots to share, and they're always hungry. Where are you going, you quivering cocksucker?" Jenny snapped her head around towards Barry and Linda, who had been surreptitiously moving towards the door. "I won't stand for this," Barry replied, apparently on instinct. He was a man used to demanding to see managers, not insulted. Even so, his voice trembled as he spoke. "You sit your bloated carcass back at this table." "I'm scared, Barry," Linda wailed as she tried to hide herself behind him. "Sit down!" That command. There was nothing human about the tone. The couple couldn't disobey. Nobody could have disobeyed. I wanted to do something. Maybe run, maybe tell Jenny to stop, tell her that whatever game she was playing wasn't funny. I don't know. Something, you know? Anything just to get what was happening to stop. I knew, deep in my very soul, I knew that it was no game. "Now then, Barry, where do we begin with you?" Jenny spoke, with a sort of false sympathy that made my skin prickle. "Do you want to tell your wife about your dirty little secret? Or should I?" "What's she talking about, Barry?" "I have no idea," came the automatic, panicked response. Jenny's eyes bore into him with such ferocity that I half expected him to catch fire. "Your big husband has a secret box filled with secret photographs." "It's not true." "He's been collecting them for some time," Jenny carried on, ignoring the outburst. "In fact, he adds to his collection every time your daughter invites her friends round for a sleepover." Barry's head dropped and he put his hands over his eyes. Linda moved back from him, her mouth opening in an O of disgust. "Oh yes, Big Barry likes to tug his meat to pictures of little girls in their pyjamas. That's nothing compared to what he's got in his computer, mind you. That's where things get nasty." "How could you?" Linda gasped. "Don't pretend to be innocent, you fucking whore." The violent fury of the outburst made everyone jump back in their seats. "You may not want sex with kids, but don't pretend to be innocent. You've had so many lovers behind your husband's back, it's no wonder he can't satisfy you anymore." Jenny sat back in her chair, her hateful glare never leaving the couple for a moment. "There are creatures in hell that know all about the joys of flesh. I don't expect you'll welcome their attention." Barry and Linda. The classical middle-aged couple with their dirty little secrets. "Timothy, dearest Timothy," Jenny snarled. The nerdy-looking guy squirmed in his seat and looked ready to burst into tears. "Please don't." "Please don't. Oh, pretty please," Jenny sneered. "What sins can you commit? You're too weak for wrath, too anxious for sloth, and too fucking pathetic for lust. No, your sin just has to be envy." Timothy did start to cry then. Not that anybody was in any position to judge him. The others were snivelling wrecks after having their sordid pasts brought out into the open, and I couldn't do anything but wait my turn. I won't lie, I was fucking terrified. "Everybody always had it so much easier than you. Everybody had it so much better than you. Did you never stop to think that maybe you were the problem? Of course, you knew deep down that you're at the bottom of the food chain, and always will be." Don't.
That's why you had to get vindictive, isn't it?
Jenny said, her eyes lighting up with evil triumph.
There was a boy in your school who you focused all that pent-up spite on. He had everything you lacked. He was everything you weren't.
Please.
You were too small and too chicken shit scared to hurt him directly. Instead, you took it out on his little dog, an animal too small to fight back. Even then you had to use poison.
He was a bastard! Timothy screamed, revealing a vicious streak I'd never suspected he could possess. He didn't deserve what he had.
There's nothing more wretched than something like you,
Jenny hissed.
You're only fit to lick the shit and blood off the walls in hell.
At that moment, I despised everybody else in the room. Under different circumstances, I'd have been laying into them. As it was, the only thing I could focus on was the knowledge that I was next.
You,
said Jenny, turning to face me as I'd expected and dreaded.
Don't think for a moment I'm going to miss you out, you fucking snake.
Those eyes tore me to pieces. I'd never felt anything like it before or since. I knew instinctively that I was looking into the eyes of something that was already ancient before my distant ancestors had first crawled out of the ocean. I couldn't stand it. Greed! I cried, my voice tinged with hysteria. My sin is greed! I confess it, you hear me? I confess!
Clever boy,
Jenny whispered.
Yes, your sin is greed. You are a charlatan, a fraudster, a conman, a liar, a hypocrite, a cold-hearted manipulator.
I am. I'm all those things. Oh God, I'm all those things.
You were a stooge, willing to cheat people out of their money. You've gotten quite good at playing on people's fears and desires, at conning them into giving them what you want. How many innocents have you sold false hope to?
So many, I gasped. Please, I confess it all.
Oh? You confess everything, do you?
That got me. It was as if somebody dropped a frozen anvil into my stomach. I realised I'd been an idiot to try and get off so lightly. Jenny, or whatever was speaking through her, would never have fallen for it. I've confessed.
No, you haven't. All of this glorified stage magic is the least of your crimes. Tell me, what do you think your punishment will be?
I swallowed. I don't know.
In that case, I'll tell you. You'll have more riches than you could possibly imagine. Enough gold and silver to fill the universe 1,000 times over. We'll even melt it down for you to make it easier to drink. I can't think of anything more appropriate for somebody willing to kill their own parents for the inheritance money.
That was it then. I was damned, and everybody knew why. There aren't words for how that feels. It's beyond shame and terror. The thing inside Jenny didn't have any parting words. It had said enough. She writhed and screamed as it left her body. Her bones snapped, and her eyes melted in their sockets as the evil force abandoned her. By the time she was free of it, she was laying in a weeping, agonized heap on the floor. None of us paid her any attention. We were all too preoccupied with our own misery. Idly, I picked up the tarot card I'd selected from the pack earlier. I didn't need to be psychic to know which card it would be. Hey guys, it's that urban legend here. If you want to see more videos like this, remember to like, comment, and subscribe.